One of the things I've heard you say, because I really, like I said, I've listened to a couple of your shows, and I've
Hmm.
heard you say that the power to create your best life is within you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's like I've created my best life, and it keeps getting better,
Mm.
right?
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stevenson, the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, where our mission is to help you live your best audacious life ever. It's always a pleasure to be here with you and sharing insightful conversations that inspire, motivate, and empower you to take bold steps towards your dreams. I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us on this journey of self-discovery. Now, imagine a tree standing amidst a storm. Its branches swing and bending under the pressure. It doesn't break. Instead, it adapts, drawing strength from its roots. Just like that tree, we all face challenges that could be overwhelming. Our stories, much like the rings of a tree, hold the essence of our experiences, both struggles and triumphs. Healing through storytelling is akin to nurturing those roots, allowing us to embrace resilience and gain new perspectives that help us weather life's storms. Each positive action we take is a drop of rain that nourishes our growth, ultimately leading us to stand stronger and taller than before. Today, we have the incredible Michael Harris joining us. Michael is a best-selling author, speaker, and resilience coach with a passion for storytelling that has transformed countless lives. After facing significant health challenges, including bypass surgery, he embarked on a journey of self-healing and empowerment. With over 30 years of experience in yoga and personal development, Michael has dedicated his life to helping others find their voice and sharing their stories. His first book, Falling Down, Getting Up, has inspired many to overcome adversity and embrace their own narratives, and Michael's profound journey of healing through storytelling makes him a perfect guest for today's episode, as he embodies a spirit of resilience and the power of personal narratives, demonstrating how sharing our stories can facilitate healing, not just for ourselves, but for others around us as well. So now that we've got you all set and we're ready to go, let's check out our conversation with Michael. Enjoy. Hey, Michael, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. I appreciate you making the time to do this.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. I've been taking notes and listening to a couple of your shows of the
Oh,
past few days,
thank
and
you.
I just really love it. I mean, your last one with manga Monica
Oh,
Mengelson
yes, yes,
was really great. The digital nomad, and
yes,
her
yes.
really talking about her life and the road, and aligning her life with her passion. And I
So
just
beautiful.
loved that whole conversation the
Thank you.
two of
No,
you had.
I feel like I'm the luckiest guy in the world because I get to talk to so many awesome people that are contributing so much wonderful things in this planet. And
Yeah.
I feel like I got a front row seat to the great stuff. And so yeah, no, it feels
Yeah.
really good. We're going to talk today about stories and
Yeah.
storytelling. I know that's a zone that you play a lot in.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I'm a big fan of stories, and I'll get into my stuff later. But maybe as a starting point, if you can introduce yourself to our audience, let them know who you are, what you're about, and kind of what's got you to this point now.
Sure. Um, I'll do the shorter version rather than the long version. Uh, I live in Central Oregon. I mentioned this to you
Yeah.
before we started, at about 3,700 feet in the mountains. And I say that because, like, I get out, I run up in the woods a lot, not literally running, but I go up in the woods, I go off trail. I don't like trails. I like to jokingly say trails are for tourists. It's like about finding our own path. And the other day on Saturday, I ran up to a butte. It's about 20 miles up a gravel road. No one's ever there. And just this beautiful view of the Cascade Mountains and
Hmm.
the what's called the Three Sisters. And it's just awesomely beautiful. I say that because 38 years ago now, I had bypass surgery in both my legs, and they were going to cut off my legs.
Mm.
And I left the hospital AMA against medical advice because I'd have none of it. I didn't know anything about anything at the time, but I knew that I wanted my legs. So I walked out with a cane in hand, barely being able to walk, literally barely being able to walk. And I went through a process in actually 1987 at a place called the Pritikin Longevity Center, where down in Santa Monica, and the doctor said, "Get up and walk." And I said, "Well, it hurts." And he says, "Yes, but get up and walk." Well, within 2 weeks, I was walking 2 miles, just by the action. Taking that action created the result
Mm,
that I was looking for. But the doctors that I had in Portland, the vascular surgeon says, "Oh no, when it hurts, don't do anything. We're going to have to take
right,
your legs and you might
right,
die."
right.
And I moved to this area of Oregon very specifically. I grew up in Oregon, but I wanted to be in a place in the mountains. I wanted to enjoy nature. I wanted to see bears and cougars and deer rather than dogs and squirrels in the park. So that's kind of like a short version.
Right,
I
right,
can keep
right.
going, Natalie, as
Oh, please
any
do. I mean,
question you have.
listen, like we might call these interviews, but we're having a conversation, discussion, and
Yeah.
so to hear you get up and say I'm walking, I'd love to know kind of what made you decide to not listen to doctors, do what you felt was right.
Well, one of the things I've heard you say, because I really, like I said, I've listened to a couple of your shows, and I've
Mhm.
heard you say that the power to create your best life is within you,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it's like I've created my best life, and it keeps getting better,
Mm,
right? Going back a little bit further, when I was even younger, Adley, at 12 years old, I was in a water skiing accident, massive near fatal water skiing accident. I had 60% of my liver removed, gallbladder, cracked ribs, collapsed lung, coma, and I had a near death experience. And so I left my body. I found myself in a garden area with the only thing that I can call him is spirit, what was around me. I shouldn't just say him, because there was him and her,
okay.
I will say. And then as I started coming back, I didn't want to come back. I wanted to stay where I was. But I came back, and I came out of my coma and had a smile on my face. And I was told I always had a smile on my face. Well, one of the things that I heard when I was had that near death experience is that everything is okay. Not that everything will be okay, but everything is okay right
Mm,
now.
right.
And that was 1971. That was 53 years ago for me, right? And I look back on that, and I think as I get older, Adley, it's like that experience becomes more powerful in my
Yes,
life.
yes.
And that idea that everything is going to be okay comes back to what I hear you say, that the power to create your life is really within you.
Hmm, hmm.
And it's taken me a long time to learn that.
Yeah. Well, and I think it does take a long time to learn that because there's so much and that happens over the course of our lives that forces us to question that. Like, is this really, can
Yeah.
this really happen? Doubts, suspicions, maybe childhood trauma, things that take place. That path of living. There's going to be some stones along the way, and when I step on one of them or two, and it might be uncomfortable, but it might be painful
Yeah.
and your resilience level, your tolerance level will kind of determine how far you really go, right?
Yeah.
If you can withstand that, you're like, I'm going to keep going regardless. If
Yeah.
other times you might regress and say, oh, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm going to back off, and that's where you sort of lose the fact that where the power truly lies, and it is within.
Yeah. Absolutely. And one of the things that I also realized along the way is that I couldn't do it on my own. I don't believe in self-made millionaires or self-made people. We need other people. Nobody does it alone. I think the only self-made millionaire is maybe somebody that's up a creek bed or in a mine digging their own gold by themselves. But
Right.
even that's not by themselves, because they had to buy the picks. Somebody made it. whatever it was, somebody helped them along the way. So it's more like we made millionaire. And I heard a statistic a few days ago that one in nine Americans is a millionaire.
Wow.
Now that the idea of being a millionaire seems to be like a target that a lot of people go for. And
Hmm.
now today, $1 million isn't what it was, even 10 or 20 years ago,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, you're
If
right.
you have $1 million, you might struggle,
Yeah, you're right.
right?
You're right. No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Um, I want to get into the I guess the art of storytelling again. I think I mentioned off the
Mm,
top is something you spent a long time with. You can kind of give some sort of background. I know you told your story initially. Is that sort of what sparked this passion for you?
yeah. Um, I love talking about stories.
Mm,
One of the things that I realized on a personal level is, especially in nonfiction type stories, when we write our own story,
hmm.
it's extremely healing. And one of the things that I found in writing my first book, Falling Down, Getting Up, was that, I really learned what was real and what wasn't real. Because sometimes the stories that we tell ourselves are not real.
Mm,
They're made up or they're mixed up with other stories and our sibling stories. And I've actually heard it said that 50% of our stories from childhood aren't our stories. They didn't happen to us. They happened to our brother or sister or friends, but we thought it was our experience.
right.
I don't know about you, but I've had discussions with my brother Steve several times about, no, that happened to me. No, that was me. Have you ever had that happen? Yeah. And
Yeah.
so, just the process of telling our stories seems to bring the truth out. So that's number one. Number two is that by telling our stories, and even like my book or other people's books, or even friends of mine on podcasts, one of the things that telling our stories does, it can help other people. I
Right.
mean, I've had emails that said, I heard your show, I read your book, and because of it, I changed my life. I decided not to commit suicide. I decided to get healthier. I decided to begin to choose the way that I live. And so I think that that power of the story for other people is just as strong as it is for us.
Right.
So I almost feel like there's an obligation to um, now today help other people get their stories out. And over the last 15, 20 years, I had helped a handful of people get their stories out. And the publisher of my first book, the Falling Down book, Falling Down, Getting Up, was Morgan James Publishing. And finally, David Hancock, which is the founder and publisher, said, why don't you just become one of our acquisitions editor or literary scout and bring stories to us? Because I kept referring him
Mm,
stories. And I thought, yeah, I like that idea. So today I get to help people, write, market, publish their stories in a way that's going to help other people. Not everybody gets published, but it's a incredible journey. And I'll add one more thing, and about that is that the world's pretty messy right now.
sure.
There's a lot of swirling energy out there, and it's just like us versus them, and I can't believe this, I can't believe that, all of that. And there's seems to be a lot of dividing lines going on. I think stories can help bring us together, especially
Mm,
stories of hope and change and learning and stories that really have impact. And it
yeah.
doesn't matter what side of the line that we may or may not be on,
Hmm.
we start to communicate with each other and share our stories and we become closer.
I agree wholeheartedly with everything that you've said, and it's interesting. Um, one of the things that I wanted to talk about was just the importance of everyone's story, because everyone's got a story, and every
Yeah.
story fits into some context, into some situation. I might have gone through something that was extremely challenging. I got through it, and when I share that with someone else who might be in the exact same boat, I've now saved them this huge learning curve, right? And
Yeah.
I've done something for them. And it's funny because when you go through a situation, it's super easy to think that nobody on the planet has any idea what you're dealing with, how to go through it, how to get the answer. No. And then you hear someone else, oh, yeah, I did that. And here's what I did. And it was good. Right. And so
Yeah.
I think that's when you talk about what stories can do. I think that's a really powerful thing. And I do, again, appreciate the emphasis and importance on everyone's story.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and look what you do. All these podcasts you're doing, you're bringing these great stories out to the world. I listened to your episode. It was episode 381 with Ray Schaub,
Wow.
Mastering Mental
Yeah.
Fitness.
Yeah.
And, he was talking about recovery from alcoholism. And but he said a couple of things that really jumped out. What will my action trigger?
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
So not only on a personal level, but what is the action of my book? What will it trigger?
Hmm.
What do I want the reader to do as a result of reading this book? What will it trigger? How will it help this person?
Yep.
And he talked about injecting positiveness in your everyday life because it's
Yeah.
so easy to get caught in that negativism,
Yes. Yeah.
and it's just, like generally good karma by wishing other people well, and karma is action, it said, so like if we're injecting good karma, it's not just a tricky phrase or a symbol on the wall or a bumper sticker or something. I mean, it's just like good action, creates good karma,
Yes, 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 yes.
right?
Oh, it totally does.
Yeah,
I believe that wholeheartedly, right? And
yeah,
um it again it tells us the powerfulness. I just made up a
yeah,
word, I think, but like it's really it really does can have an impact. And really one of the things what I like about that, it really allows us to see the power in our own actions. Like,
hmm,
everything that we under the sun we do matters. It matters, and we may not think it does, but it might. I remember a story, and I told this on a podcast before. But a friend of mine, she was an accountant in the corporate field,
hmm,
and she did the corporate accounting. She went to school for a study with it. She's supposed to be at the top of her, her career, if you will, because she's reached this level. But she wasn't happy. She wasn't satisfied. It didn't bring her any fulfillment or enjoyment. It was just a job. She had heard about another woman, so someone she didn't know, also was in the accounting field and was in the similar unhappy state that she was. And this individual decided that they were going to leave this corporate world and focus on small businesses and
hmm,
not-for-profit
hmm,
sector.
hmm,
Well, that individual made that successful transition and is completely happy and satisfied and fulfilled and loves what she does. Well, my friend was very similar, and she's like, "Yeah, I think I want to do that as well too."
yeah,
And the funny thing about it is the original individual that left and moved on and tried has no idea the impact she had on my friend, and has no
yeah,
idea that I've been telling this story on my podcast, right? So
right,
so so there's an aspect of this where we just kind of live our lives and do, we talk on this oftentimes about what we're intended to do, what we're supposed to do, our purpose, right? Do those things. And we never will know how we impact others or the profound impacts it can make in the lives of others. But we do them anyways, and we take that step. And that's where the audaciousness comes in, right? We got to be
yeah,
bold enough to take that step in the face of adversity, in the face of all doubts and suspicions and fears you may have, and do it anyways.
yeah. Yeah, and that's so true that to do it anyways. And I remember that moment in 1987 where the doctor just said, "Just get up and walk. Yeah, it's gonna hurt, but the pain will kill the pain. And as you keep walking, you'll walk further and further." And then, last year I made a commitment where kind of live, on the east slope of the Cascades, but for about 400 miles east of me, between me and Boise, Idaho, is
Hmm.
nothing but desert. And out there in the desert are a bunch of buttes. They're like little mini volcanoes, right? And there's endless number of buttes. So last year I made a commitment that I was going to go up a butte a week. And I would drive out there, sometimes 20 miles, 50 miles, 100 miles, and find these buttes. And I would stand there at the bottom of the butte and just go, okay, I'm doing this again, right? And that idea of that audacious living and taking that next step and taking action is so powerful. And whether you're literally walking up a mountain, like I love to do, right?
Hmm.
Whether I'm literally doing that, or the mountain, those things in our life that we don't think that we can deal with because they're so big. And again, Ray Schwab, it's not Schwab, it's Schwab, right? And he talked about getting up, over, and through. It's just like, if
Yep.
the mountain's in the way, go around it, go
Yes.
over it.
Yes. Yes.
So what? You know, there's mountains everywhere, you know,
Yes. Yeah.
and, when you drive around them, now they build roads around them. Well, if they build a road around them, we can get around them,
That's right. That's right. There's always
right?
a way. There's always a
There's
way.
always a way.
There's always a way.
Yeah.
You the walking process. I want to kind of go back to that because I just think
Yep.
it's a great story. I mean, the pain kills the pain. That's I've never heard that expression
Mm,
before.
yeah.
But when you think about it, I kind of see, I can understand that. But what you're also doing in the process is you're building up your tolerance level and your resilience level, and
Yeah.
you're building up your strength, and that can be so applicable in our everyday lives.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, one of the things we haven't talked about is yoga. I started yoga way back in 87 as
Hmm.
well, and have been doing it ever since, practicing, teaching, owning studios, a whole bunch of stuff. And one of the things that I found within a yoga practice too is like, we have back pain. Back pain is normal and common,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So we're in our yoga class and our yoga practice, and if we do a little bit of a back bend, it might affect our back. We might be a little scared, we might be afraid, we might be uncertain, but that little bit of back bend can help lead to a larger back bend, which
Hmm.
can help release that energy block that we have in our muscles, in our spine, that's causing that pain,
Right.
right? So again, it comes back to the idea of, pain kills the pain. And then the other part of that is poison kills the poison.
Hmm.
So if you think about it like cancer, if you have cancer, they give you chemo. Chemo is
Yes.
poison, and it's
Hmm.
killing the poison of the cancer. There's a gazillion examples of pain killing the pain and poison killing poison. With me, with my walking, I had claudication, intermittent claudication in my
Okay.
calves that was so painful. I mean, literally, I could walk about 10 feet with a cane and holding somebody's arm or the wall. That's about
Hmm.
all I could do.
Okay. Okay.
And then the doctor just said, go out there. This was right on the boardwalk at Santa Monica in California. Said, walk 10 feet, stop. Walk 11 feet, stop. Walk
Ah,
12 feet. And as I kept doing that, yes, the pain was excruciating at first. But as I did that, the pain went away, is because I brought new blood into my legs, into my
gotcha.
feet, into my
Mm.
calves,
Mm.
right? So that action of the pain, that karmic action of the pain, killed the pain. You
Gotcha.
know, it's just, I mean, it's phenomenal the way it works.
Yes. No, no, no. I mean, and it makes total sense as and that technical explanation just even brings it to life even more. But yeah, I think it's a wonderful, wonderful sort of process to understand. Because once
Yeah.
you can understand that process, you can directly apply it, and then that's when you can see the major successes in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
Ray again, he talked about alcoholism. I've been sober since 30 years old, since 1988.
Hmm.
And part of recovery from alcoholism is you go in and you do certain work, and it's extremely emotionally painful to do that work. If you go to
Yep.
therapy, sometimes it's extremely difficult for somebody to go into therapy and sit in a therapist's office and tell their story because it's so painful. They have tears, they cry, you roll up in a ball, all those things. But once you get through it, you've released it.
Gotcha.
But
Yeah.
unless you get it out, it gets stuck in us, right? So
Right.
how do we get it out? We tell our stories.
Gotcha. Yep. No, I'm a big fan of that. Um, what's the monkey mind? Let's talk about that.
The monkey mind. I don't know if you've ever had this or any of the listeners listening, but it's that mind where everything, it's just chatter, it's this, the car cuts us off, something happened in a relationship. I can't believe they did that at work. What about my pets? What about my kids? And it's just like all jumble, jumble, jumble.
Yep.
And we think if we're nice to it, it will go away, right? So this might sound kind of like a contradiction. I was in India a number of years ago in Agra and in the Taj Palaces where the Taj Mahal was. And
Hmm.
second or third floor of the hotel there. And there's monkeys around, and there's actually guys walking around the grounds with these large sticks. They're bamboo sticks about 12, 15 feet long to
Hmm.
hit the monkeys and chase them off. But
Okay.
the monkeys crawl up the building and get on the decks out there and look in the window and hoping the door will be open because the hotel, in their wisdom, they put a big bowl of fruit out there,
Okay.
right?
Right.
And so some people leave their door open once. I never left my door open, but they jump up on the window trying to get in. Now, somebody I was traveling with in the room next to me, they had their door open, and the monkeys would come in,
Hmm.
right? And they would grab all of it. And he walked out of the shower once, and the monkeys were in the room and they were all angry and the monkeys were angry and
Sure.
get away from my bananas and mangoes and
Right.
all these things. So the reason I say that because I realized this back then, it's like I would do the same thing. I would put a bowl of fruit out in my head for the monkeys, and I thought as long as I kept the monkeys happy, it would be okay and they wouldn't be upset. Well, the day I didn't put any, bananas out in my head for the monkeys, they were all pissed off, right? But one of the things that also happened is they stopped coming
Right.
because there was no food for them to eat anymore,
Mm.
right? So it's like, what are we doing to feed our monkeys? And we've all done it or we all do it. Um, so it's just like finding a new way to think, a new way to
Gotcha.
look at something,
Yeah. Great. Great. Love it.
a new story to tell ourselves.
Like a new perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
and no, I think so. I think the monkey analogy is a good one. So you mentioned earlier just your I guess your book writing journey, and I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about your book, which is a number one bestseller, Falling Down and Getting Up, which I think is appropriately named.
Yeah. Yeah. Falling Down, Getting Up. It was my first book. And it took me, I like to say it took me 12 years and 79 days to write it because it was in my mind. I would write
Mm,
something down. I wouldn't do anything for a couple of years. I maybe write another thought down. So I didn't really do much,
yeah.
right? And then I heard something and it's like triggered something and it says, oh, I could write this book in 90 days. So I made
Mm,
a commitment to write the book in 90 days. It actually took me 79 days to do it.
okay.
And I was a guy in the corner of the coffee shop with his cup of coffee or cup of tea on his laptop, just like trying to stay away from other people.
Right.
But
Right. Focus.
yeah, right. And I'd go and write for 2 hours a day, and that was it, right? Maybe 210 sometimes or a little bit shorter, but not much. And in 79 days, it was done. I walked into a media event in New York. It wasn't published yet. I had this manuscript, and it was a national media event. And I started talking to some people there, and there was a person there. I had no idea who he was. And he said, I want to publish your book. And I said, well, who are you? He says, well, I'm Rick Frischman, and I work with Morgan James. And, I've published Henry Kissinger and all sorts of different people, in his career. My thought was, well, why do you want to write my book? Right? I had that a little bit of doubt for a moment. But that was on a Friday, and then the following Wednesday, I had a signed book deal with Morgan James.
I love it.
And, it just, this is the book, falling down, getting up. And through that, I met somebody named Jay Conrad Levinson. I don't know if
Mhm.
you know who he is or
No.
a listener out there, but most of us have heard the term guerrilla marketing.
Yes.
So Jay was the father of guerrilla marketing, right? He was the
Hmm.
man that invented that term through his marketing and advertising in the 60s and 70s and really popularized that term. Well, I met Jay through Morgan James, through the
Hmm.
company, and we became quick friends and sent him the manuscript. And he told me, he says, I read that manuscript twice in one day. He says,
Wow.
I was so enthralled with it. And he says, I typically don't write a forward or endorse a non-marketing book. He says, but what you did was guerrilla marketing, what you did to heal yourself. And guerrilla marketing, is all about finding a new way to do something, to market yourself in as low cost way as possible.
Possible.
Right.
Right.
And he says, you did that with healing. You walked away from the doctors, you started walking, you started eating differently, you let go of alcohol, all those things essentially don't cost anything,
Right.
right? So he said, for that reason, I will endorse your book. So we had a really wonderful relationship until he
Beautiful.
passed. And I just felt really blessed to have Jay be part of that journey. And I
Beautiful.
will say, yeah, I've sold a number of these books.
Hmm.
And we haven't talked much about money, and it's not really that important, but I've made more money not from the sale of this book, but
Hmm.
because of the book, right? It's
Mm.
opened up. I've got new
Yep.
clients, new deals, all sorts of different things that have happened over the last dozen years that that book has been out, where it's multiple seven figures, if not more.
Right.
It's probably more than that because with
Beautiful.
I did yoga business coaching. I coached yoga studios around the world and had this small company, and we generated about $40 million through that. So I'm underestimating myself with the power of the book, and that's what the book can do. So it's not just about somebody reading the book,
Hmm.
it's the credibility that it gives you with other people. Oh, this person had a number one book. Oh, they wrote several books. Oh,
Right.
and so the
Yep.
how it comes back to the power of the story again.
No, it does. It really, really does. And I think,
Yeah,
and I love the manner in which you embrace storytelling
yeah.
and you're starting with your own. And I think that's a great starting point. Michael, this has been a really phenomenal chat, man. I really appreciate the insights that you offered and the perspectives that you shared. For listeners that wanted to learn more about you or perhaps talk about writing their own book, where can we send them?
There's a couple different places. Of course, my website is this michaelbharris.com. Michael B is in book,
Yep.
michaelbharris.com.
Nice.
But what I'd like to do for any of the listeners, I don't do this on all the shows. If somebody wants to get a free copy of my book, they
Hmm.
can go to ebook.michaelbharris.com. So it's just my website, Michael
Yep.
B. Harris, with ebook on the front of it,
Okay.
right? And they can download a free copy of the book. Um,
Wow.
and I like to give it
Thank
away
you.
sometimes, and it just feels right today, Adley, to
Oh, well, thank you.
do
I do
that for
appreciate
the
that.
listeners. Yeah.
No, I do appreciate that. Again, I think sharing is just a beautiful thing. And so we'll make sure that listeners can take advantage of that.
Yeah.
Michael, this has been great. Thank you for the time today. Congratulations on the success. And again, using your own story to make a profound impact on others. Just simply wonderful. Simply wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you, Adley. And again, I encourage all the listeners to go through your shows because there's some great gems out there.
Thank you. Thank you. It's
yeah.
truly from the heart, and I feel blessed to be able to do what I've done. So thank you. All the best, and thank you for being on the Audacious Living Podcast, Michael.
I loved it. Thanks.
Back, we are here on the podcast. So much thanks and appreciation goes out to Michael for being here. You know, in a conversation, he shared a powerful insight. The essence of our stories holds the key to our healing and resilience. He emphasized that while we may face moments of pain, it's through the acts of sharing our experiences that can release the burdens that we carry. By embracing our unique journeys, we not only foster our own growth, but also offer hope to others navigating similar paths. As Michael puts it, the power to create your best life lies within you. And by sharing your story, you empower not only yourself, but also those who listen. I personally love Michael's infectious enthusiasm and his ability to inspire listeners to embrace their own journeys. You know, his story serves as a reminder that we all have the power within us to overcome obstacles and create a life filled with purpose and connection. If you felt inspired by our conversation today, I'd encourage you to connect with Michael directly. You certainly can find his contact details in the show notes below, including links to his website and social media platforms. As a special treat for our listeners, Michael is offering a free copy of his best-selling book, Falling Down, Getting Up, which you can download your free ebook at ebook.michaelharrisb.com. Don't miss out on this opportunity to transform your perspective and inspire your journey. Thank you so much for joining us on this edition of the Audacious Living Podcast. I hope you found inspiration in our conversation, and if you feel empowered to take bold actions in your life of your own. Now, if you've enjoyed today's episodes, please like, follow, subscribe, and share if you haven't already done so, because that's, of course, how we grow this podcast. Together, let's continue to grow this community of fearless individuals ready to live their best audacious lives. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stevenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.